Hey, this Ramon channel is Alpha 4, and please like, please subscribe, please hit that little bell. I do want to apologize for the sound. I still don't have a new mic. I am going to be looking to getting a snowball mic and a little lapel mic. 48 Laws of Power. National bestseller. This is a paperback. It's also available on hardback and a Audible version. What do I think about this book? So is this book an evil book? No, it's not. There is some stuff in this book that you might find shocking if you're not familiar with certain types of philosophical concepts when it comes to strategy. Every year I read Machiavelli, I read The Art of War, Sun Tzu, The Art of War, Machiavelli the Prince, Miyamoto Musashi, The Five Rings, and Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. As someone who reads these books every year, a lot of the advice in here is not all that shocking. So then why does this book shock people? Well, this book is somewhat of a satire of common wisdom. In fact, my biggest complaint about this book is that it gives the popular accounts, or the common accounts, if you will, the vulgar accounts of famous events in history. And it bastardizes a lot of the famous characters in history. That bothers me a lot. It's not historically accurate. For instance, Napoleon, it gives the wrong account of Napoleon. It makes him short, which in actuality he was of average height. It gives the wrong account of Christianity. It gives credit to Constantine when actually
Emperor Theodosius I, who legalized and made Christianity the official religion of Rome.
And it is a satire of common wisdom. So it actually turns all the precepts that you know on their head. So charity, it turns into a strategy of the manipulative. It shows all good deeds in a bad light and shows all bad deeds in a good light. There's a lot of humor. There's a lot of tongue-in-cheek in both the advice and in the accounts given. The book itself is actually really easy to read. I'll give you an example. It's very short. The audiobook, I believe, is about 32 hours, but that's actually because it has these little accounts on the side that gives you a little bit of extra information. It's broken down into the rule to the law, and then it gives the judgment, the reversal, the judgment, and it gives an example. And it has keys to power and observations, and it's actually kind of neat. So it'll show the opposite side of a certain rule. So really it's a lot more than 48 rules to power. There's like a lot to it. It's not as extensive as it seems, and because it goes with the popular accounts, with the common version of stories, a lot of the information you already know. Absorbing it through TV or YouTube or movies or comic books, you probably know a lot of the stuff that it's going to say. I would almost think of it as a guidebook of how to be Thanos, because it almost creates a comic book villain of authority figures. Would I recommend this book? That depends. If you're unfamiliar with actual historical events, I would say if you've never read about the Napoleonic Wars, or you know very little about those people and those events, I actually wouldn't recommend this book. I recommend you read an account of the Napoleonic Wars first. I'd recommend you read a history of China first before reading this book, because this book relies a lot on Chinese history, relies a lot on ancient medieval philosophy, and if you're not familiar with those things, you might take the account in here as the actual account, when the advice sometimes is taken out of context. For instance, there's a character in Chinese history named Cao Cao or Cao Cao. And I just before I picked up this book, I started learning about it because, as some people know, my wife is of Chinese ancestry. She's Chinese, Han. And so I've been reading up about Chinese history. And this book relies a lot on stories of that character's account. Well, it's actually from a romance. It's not even from an actual history. It's a fictional account of his life, and this thing just bastardizes it. Is this book historically accurate? No. Is it philosophically accurate? No. But it does use real philosophy and real history to make its points, which is very entertaining. I would think of this again as a satire of common philosophy, popular philosophy. So pop science, pop philosophy, pop history. That's what this book is satirizing. On a scale through 1 to 10, I'd give this book a 7. The reason for that is very simple. The ideas here are great. They're fun. They're entertaining. It's very useful. I'd actually recommend this more for business-minded people or salespeople, not really for people who go into philosophy. If you want to know the philosophy that's in this book, but you want to hear the real accounts, again, read the books that I like reading. The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Read Machiavelli, The Prince. Read the Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi, Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. Because you'll get the same advice, but in a more concentrated and more honest form. If you're familiar with those accounts and you're familiar with the real history, say for instance you've read Herodotus and you've read a Chinese history or two, you've read about the Napoleonic Wars, nothing in here is going to shock you or surprise you. Is it as good as Machiavelli? Because it takes the structure of the Art of War and it kind of applies Machiavelli's precepts to them. No, I think Machiavelli is much more interesting. I think The Prince and the discourses are much more interesting than this. It does talk a little bit about Russian history as well, but it doesn't really delve into it too highly. Something about the last czars or Ivan the Terrible. Those are the examples that they like to go to. They like to go through Catherine the Great, Queen Victoria, that kind of stuff. Anyway, peace, like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know if you read this book, what you thought about it. If you like the way that it bastardized history and satirized popular philosophy, let me know. And also let me know if you like the common stories, the common accounts of things, as opposed to the historical account of things. Anyway, peace, like, and subscribe. Talk to you all later.